our bearers and escorts when we reached higher ground beyond the horrible swamp, keeping one litter for Inez in which the Zulus carried her when she was tired. We accomplished it in complete safety, and having crossed the Zambesi, at last one evening reached the house called Strathmuir. Here we found the waggon and oxen quite safe and were welcomed rapturously by my Zulu driver and the voorlooper, who had made up their minds that we were dead and were thinking of trekking homewards. Here also Thomaso greeted us, though I think that, like the Zulus, he was astonished at our safe return, and indeed not over pleased to see us. I told him that Captain Robertson had been killed in a fight in which we had rescued his daughter from the cannibals who had carried her off, information which I cautioned him to keep to himself, but nothing else that I could help. Also I warned the Zulus through Umslopogaas and Goroko that no mention was to be made of our adventures, either then or afterwards, since if these were done the curse of the White Queen would fall on them and bring them to disaster and death. I added that the name of this queen and everything that was connected with her, or her doings, must be locked up in their own hearts. It must be like the name of dead kings, not to be spoken. Nor indeed did they ever speak it or tell the story of our search, because they were too much afraid both of Ayesha, whom they believed to be the greatest of all witches, and of the axe of their captain Umslopogaas. Inez went to bed that night without seeming to recognize her old home, to all appearance just a mindless child as she had been ever since she woke from her trance at Kôr. Next morning, however, Hans came to tell me that she was changed and that she wished to speak with me. I went wondering to find her in the sitting room, dressed in European clothes which she had taken from where she kept them, and once more a reasoning woman. "Mr. Quatermain," she said, "I suppose that I must have been ill, for the last thing I remember is going to sleep on the night after you started for the hippopotamus hunt. Where is my father? Did any harm come to him while he was hunting?" "Alas," I answered, lying boldly, for I feared lest the truth should take away her mind again, "it did. He was trampled upon by a hippopotamus bull which charged him and killed, and we were obliged to bury him where he died." She bowed her head for a while and muttered some prayer for his soul, then looked at me keenly and said, "I do not think you are telling me everything, Mr. Quatermain, but something seems to say that this is because it is not well that I should learn everything." "No," I answered, "you have been ill and out of your mind for quite a long while. Something gave you a shock. I think that you learned of your father's death, which you have now forgotten, and were overcome with the news. Please trust to me and believe that if I keep anything back from you, it is because I think it best to do so for the present." "I trust and believe," she answered. "Now please leave me, but tell me first, where are those women and their children?" "After your father died they went away," I replied, lying once more. She looked at me again, but made no comment. Then I left her. How much Inez ever learned of the true story of her adventures I do not know to this hour, though my opinion is that it was but little. To begin with, everyone, including Thomaso, was threatened with the direst consequences if he said a word to her on the subject. Moreover, in her way she was a wise woman, one who knew when it was best not to ask questions. She was aware that she had suffered from a fit of aberration or madness, and that during this time her father had died and certain peculiar things had happened. There she was content to leave the business, and she never again spoke to me upon the subject. Of this I was very glad, and how on earth could I have explained to her about Ayesha's prophecies as to her lapse into childishness and subsequent return to a normal state when she reached her home, seeing that I did not understand them myself? Once indeed she did inquire what had become of Janee, to which I answered that she had died during her sickness. It was another lie, at any rate by implication, but I hold that there are occasions when it is righteous to lie. At least these particular falsehoods have never troubled my conscience. Here I may as well finish the story of Inez, that is, as far as I can. As I have shown, she was always a woman of melancholy and religious temperament, qualities that seemed to grow upon her after her return to health. Certainly the religion did, for continually she was engaged in prayer, a development with which heredity may have had something to do, since after he became a reformed character and grew unsettled in his mind, her father followed the same road. On our return to civilization, as it chanced, one of the first persons with whom she came in contact was a very earnest and excellent old priest of her own faith. The end of this intimacy was much what might have been expected. Very soon Inez determined to renounce the world, which I think never had any great attractions for her, and entered a sisterhood of an extremely strict order in Natal, where, added to her many merits, her considerable possessions made her very welcome indeed. Once in after years I saw her again when she expected before long to become the Mother Superior of her convent. I found her very cheerful and she told me that her happiness was complete. Even then she did not ask me the true story of what had happened to her during that period when her mind was a blank. She said that she knew something had happened, but that as she no longer felt any curiosity about earthly things, she did not wish to know the details. Again I rejoiced, for how could I tell the true tale and expect to be believed, even by the most confiding and simple-minded nun? To return to more immediate events. When we had been at Strathmuir for a day or two, and I thought that her mind was clear enough to judge of affairs, I told Inez that I must journey on to Natal, and asked her what she wished to do. Without a moment's hesitation she replied that she desired to come with me, as now that her father was dead, nothing would induce her to continue to live at Strathmuir, without friends or indeed the consolations of religion. Then she showed me a secret hiding place cunningly devised in a sort of cellar, under the sitting room floor, where her father was accustomed to keep the spirits of which he consumed so great a quantity. In this hole beneath some bricks we discovered a large sum in gold stored away, which Robertson had always told his daughter she would find there, in the event of anything happening to him. With the money were his will and securities, also certain mementos of his youth and some love letters, together with a prayer book that his mother had given him. These valuables, of which no one knew the existence except herself, we removed and then made our preparations for departure. They were simple. Such articles of value as we could carry were packed into the waggon, and the best of the cattle we drew with us. The place with the store and the rest of the stock were handed over to Thomaso on a half profit agreement under arrangement that he should remit the shares of Inez twice a year to a bank on the coast, where her father had an account. Whether or not he ever did this I am unable to say, but as no one wished to stop at Strathmuir, I could conceive no better plan. because purchasers of property in that district did not exist. As we trekked away one fine